Good morning, good afternoon, whatever it is for you, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Shomler. This is the Desperately Dating. What's going on? I'm getting a text from my girlfriend. I better restart the show, turn my phone in airplane mode.
Okay.
We can keep going. You want to keep going?
Okay.
Here's what I'm excited about. I have solved the audio problem. I had this problem with the audio. We're 13 episodes in, and I always feel like it doesn't sound quite right. I am hopeful, I solved the problem. I don't know. We're going to find out when we listen to this. They might be listening and be like, Zach, you're an idiot. It's the same problem. But I'm hopeful that things will sound better in this episode. This is Desperately Dating episode 13. That is my wonderful and wise stepmom, Karyn. Today's episode has a really cool title.
Yes, it does.
Oh, man. It's called How to Get Revenge on Your Ex.
Yes.
Oh, man. And I think it's a great clickbaity title. I think the reality behind the question and the topic is that you're going to be like, oh, I learned something good. I want to start with a question, though. I'm not going to read it. I just want to share the gist of it because I get a lot of questions like this, and this one in particular was from a young man who was really struggling. The whole premise of what he asked me is, hey, man, I'm really struggling with this desire to get back at my ex. What do I do? How do I rectify this? How do I deal with this feeling I'm having that I want to get back at my ex? And I actually put on my Instagram story last night. I had this immediate response. I was like, you know what? Like, what you got to do is learn what you can, grieve, take really good notes, learn what you can from it, and then move on and enjoy your life. Mm-hmm. And then let me tell you, there's no better feeling than like kind of sticking it to your ex by just being happy. Like, ha! You're gone and I'm happy. How's it feel? But I don't know. I wanted your opinion on this. And then I think we have a lot of stuff prepared for a great discussion. But when you hear that initially, like, how do you get back your ex? What do you think?
Oh, I know. Well, revenge, right? That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I think it's a reflex. It's a human reflex.
Yeah.
It's like a knee-jerk response. Somebody hurts you, so you want to hurt them back.
Yeah. It's like a subconscious feeling.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make you hurt the way you hurt me.
Yeah. It's real. It's hard to resist. But it's also kind of fucked up if you think about it.
Fuck
you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like two wrongs do not make a right.
No.
You know, you think about how it feels to hurt. Do you really want to inflict that on somebody else, even somebody that maybe you blame for some of the hurt you're feeling? I don't know. I think it's best if you can figure out a way to let it go. You know, however you want to say this, that maybe it'll sound trite, but take the high road.
Yeah.
You know, because I think that in the end, you're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to sleep better at night if you kind of do the right thing there instead of, you know, doing something nasty. Just because you can do something nasty doesn't mean that you should.
You know, 4 years ago, first of all, 4 years ago, my brother Zane died.
Mm-hmm.
Took his life, committed suicide. And at the time when Zane died, I was in a long-term relationship. And I was devastated when my brother died, and I became a mess. And I learned a quote. In that relationship I was in, when Zane died, I did things that I am not proud of. I just didn't handle any of it well. I didn't handle my brother's death well. It caused a lot of problems in my relationship. And one of the things and the quotes I heard like years later upon reflecting on that relationship, because I just felt guilty, like I felt horrible. I was a mess, and I learned the quote that hurting people hurt people.
Right.
I was hurting so much, and I just hurt my ex-girlfriend from 4 years ago. Like, she's married now, whatever. Like, but I know at the time, man, I did not handle things well. I didn't treat her well, and I was just a wreck and a mess. And
you didn't know any better, though.
No, for sure.
It's totally a disorienting experience.
But I had to deal with it. How do I rectify this? And the truth is, you go back to like when you're hurting, you hurt other people, and you have to be aware when you're a mess, when you're really struggling, when you're grieving.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to lash out.
Yeah.
And it's important to not do that. It's important to like be aware of your state and
learn some healthier coping mechanisms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we're talking about there, though, is what's an alternative to this knee-jerk reflex of wanting to get revenge? What's a healthier way to get over a breakup?
Well, I would say, like, first of all, I said again, move on with your life. At some point, move on. If you want to get back at your ex, again, move on and enjoy your life. There's nothing more vindicating than like, hey, I'm happy.
Yeah.
I'm at Belize. I'm at Red Rocks at a concert. Ha! But the way you get there is you got to grieve. You have to deal with those. You have to be introspective. You have to take journal. You have to journal. I literally encourage you, buy a notebook, buy a piece of paper. What am I using? A Uniball. These are great pens. They're not a sponsor. I wish they were. Oh my god.
They're not as good as the pilots.
Oh,
the G2s.
screw your Pilot G2s. They're all jelly and gross. They're too jelly. Again, Uniball. What I recommend. Point is this: get a notebook, journal, do some introspection, do some learning, and grieve. And Karyn, you've been through tremendous loss. People don't even realize. It's crazy to me. I talk all the time about how my brother died, and I think often, especially people that listen to this show, have no idea the wealth of knowledge you have through the grieving process, and because of the grieving process, which is sad but true. Mm-hmm. How do you grieve? What are your if you want to share your story, you can. If you don't, that's fine. But I know that you understand the process of grieving because of your experiences. What do you do?
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about that. Well, not happy, but yeah, I have experience. And I don't think of myself as an expert in any way because I feel like this is a part of the human condition. If you're human, you're going to go through loss. There's going to be loss in your life. Luckily, I had supportive people around me that I think gave me some guidance as far as healthy ways to get through that. Because I've spent a lot of my life working in the hospice setting. And so when I lost my dad and my brother 3 weeks apart, both totally unexpectedly, I had people around me that were professionals that could help me figure out how to grieve. Yeah. Because it was new to me, which seems kind of ironic, spending all those years working in hospice, but I had never really gone through, a significant loss myself.
And what is I actually didn't know hospice when you introduced it to me a while ago. What is hospice for people that don't know?
Yeah, it's specialized medical care for people that are within the last 6 months of their life.
So you work with people that are dying?
I do. Yeah, I work with people that are dying every day, which a lot of times people feel like that, oh my God, that must be so depressing. But for me, it's actually very validating, very life-affirming.
You give people love as they're on their way out.
Yeah, exactly. And just to treat that time of life with the respect that it deserves.
What's really interesting is that you worked in that you work in that field in hospice, and you still had to learn how to do grieving.
Yeah.
How does that work? I mean, it's interesting to me.
Because honestly, I was working with people before they died, right? Then after they died, then they went to the bereavement department, and those people kind of helped them put the pieces back together, which was just not because I didn't want to be involved. It just it's the way things were
your
set
job
up.
is to give love.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
You can give love.
Yeah, but luckily those same people were able to guide me and just normalize the whole grieving process, because it is something that I think if you don't get in the way of yourself too much, it'll work itself out. Not that you don't need to dedicate some time and headspace to it, but it's not rocket science. Just like you said, you got a journal. I journaled a lot as well. I actually found walking a lot helped, just being by myself, walking around a lake, in the early mornings was a time when I could privately let out a lot of tears. I shed tons of tears and just kind of think through things and just feel those feelings of loss and missing them and just letting myself feel it all, not trying to stop it up. Of course I had to kind of be able to deal, because I had young kids at the time, and, they just were too young to really understand grief very well. So I tried to, I guess, what I want to say, compartmentalize a little bit. So I gave myself that time each morning to just feel all those feelings so that I could still be mom and functional. Yeah. And that worked. I also found that processing out loud with people that were good at that, and I put that qualifier on there for a reason, because not everybody is. Yeah. I had those people at work that I mentioned before that were really helpful. And then I had some people in my life that were really good at supporting me in my grief, and some that honestly just were not. I had some friends that were like, just because they don't know what to say, but they would say unhelpful things like, oh, they're in a better place, or, shit like that, which is just...
Or everything happens for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason.
Fuck that statement.
Yeah. I mean, but I was able to recognize that they were trying to help me, but they just didn't know how. So I tried to give people a lot of grace on that, but then maybe distance myself a little from their help in quotation marks.
But it's important to know when you're going through the grieving process, when someone breaks up with you, when someone you know dies, when anything happens, bad happens, some people are going to say unhelpful shit, and you don't need to listen to every little grain of nugget that's told to you, because not everything people say is helpful. Take what you need and throw some shit away. If, like, again, that thing like everything happens for a reason. Fuck you. I hated that when someone dies. It's like the worst thing to say.
I know.
And I probably sounded too harsh. I'm not actually like. That's how I felt when I was at the time. I was like, man, my brother didn't die for a reason. Like, go eat dicks. I hated that.
I know. Me too. Yeah. But then, other people did really get it. I can remember this one. She was really an acquaintance at the time. Like, our kids were in school together. I didn't really know her that well, but she heard the news or whatever and took it upon herself to go to the grocery, because I had a bunch of family fly in and stay at my house, when all this was kind of going down. And she went to the grocery and just picked up some extra food and brought it to my door. Didn't ask anything of me, just gave me a big hug and a card and said, here, I hope this helps. Call me if you need anything. That was like wonderful.
Oh, yeah. There was a morning where I talked about Unflawed Humans with my dad, where I was just, my girlfriend and I broke up. I was a wreck, and my dad came over. He brought donuts and coffee.
Yeah.
And we just had a nice morning together, and I just felt taken care of a little bit, and I needed that. I was really in a funk, and I needed some love.
Some love. Yeah. So find those people that are able to do that, just give you love without feeling like they need to fill silences or say the right thing, because there's no right thing.
No.
I loved it when people would just say, I have no idea what you're going through. I can see you're hurting and I love you, or something very simple like that.
Yeah.
And I remember getting cards, after they had died. And this one just really sticks in my mind because it was so heartfelt. And it just said, basically, I get it that your life has changed completely. It'll never, ever be the same. And that to me just felt like, wow, you get it. Like, she must have, I don't know. I mean, we weren't even that close. We're like work friends.
Yeah.
But she must have gone through something similar. But it just really touched me. I still actually have that card to this day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
She got it.
She
it's
got
interesting. Like, where was I gonna go? When that kind of thing happens, one of the things you talked about is normalizing certain things, and that's crying. Like, I don't think people understand, like, when you break up with someone, when you have loss, grieve it. Like, feel sad. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to cry, and crying doesn't always happen immediately. Doesn't always happen on a schedule. My dad has a silly phrase. He says that grieving is like going to the bathroom. Like, when nature calls, it happens, and you got to lean into it. And if you don't go to the bathroom, really bad things happen.
Yeah.
If you don't cry when you need to cry, bad things happen. Don't suppress that. Lean into it. Take a journal. Take a notebook. And if you grieve it and go through it, and that's like, it's so huge. I mean, you have to be able to mourn the loss of your relationship, mourn the loss of any big loss in your life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we were talking about death, but actually it all applies to the end of a relationship.
I mean, your divorce had to hurt.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dude,
yeah.
I played college football at one point, and I left my college football team. Loss is loss. It's the same thing, whether it's a breakup, a death. Not the same thing, but there are very similar processes to dealing with grief, whether it's a college football team you're no longer a part of, or a girlfriend, or a brother dies, or a spouse, or you lose a job. Loss is loss.
Loss is loss, or bankruptcy, or any financial losses. Yeah, totally. Loss of your house.
Yeah. But it's the same advice I go back to, like, grieve it.
Yeah.
Learn what you can, and then at some point, move on. At some point, and go back to enjoying your life. I mean, I think death is a big one. Like, when my brother died, Zane would want me to enjoy my life. Zane wouldn't want me to be destroyed for years and never be able to get on with it. But it's the same way with a relationship, same way with a job. Go get a new job at some point. Go get a new relationship. Go at some point when you're done grieving, even if you're not. A great example is in my relationship. Like, I'm still kind of grieving. There are moments where, like, I have a hard time. I'm like, oh, that song reminds me of fuck, My girlfriend's very patient and understanding of that, and we talk about it, and it's really helpful actually to process that. It makes our relationship better. But grieve. Don't be afraid to lean into that and let it happen when it happens. And you have to. It's so important to do that.
No, I completely agree with that. And I would also say, though, that I think our culture kind of teaches us to avoid those kinds of difficult feelings.
Yeah.
So it's one thing for us to say that. It's another for people to really embrace that.
Yeah.
Because it's scary, I don't know about you, but there were times when I was like, is this grief ever going to end? It was kind of frightening, the depth of my despair at times.
The
you
lowest
know?
point.
Yeah, like, I just couldn't believe, like, how can I have this many tears in me?
Yeah.
This
And how
just
could it ever
level.
get better?
Yeah, I mean, it
You
definitely
feel
seems dark
hopelessness.
for
Yeah.
sure at times. And I think that's another thing that, you were saying that you were alluding to how grief never really fully goes away. And I think that's true. The way I would characterize it is sort of like waves on an ocean where, initially it felt like it was just like this crashing surf, like this big storm of tidal waves that was just like going over me, which is one after another. And then now it's still like every once in a while I'll get like a rogue wave that comes in, out of nowhere. But for the most part, it's kind of gone down to, just a normal calm sea.
When you, I think there are moments ahead I'm preparing for where I know at some point I'm going to go to a concert in our hometown in Portland and run into my ex-girlfriend.
Yep.
It's just inevitable.
Yeah.
And I know that I see pictures of Zane sometimes, and I'm sure, like, if you ran into is there ever a point in your life where running into your ex-husband at a restaurant wouldn't make you pause for a minute and go like,
Well, the unique thing, or not that unique, but compared to your situation for me, is that I share kids with my ex-husband. So,
no.
yeah. So there's no escaping that,
Oh, shit.
So we see each other on a pretty regular basis. And then the other bit is, hearing from the kids about how their lives are going. And I'm sure that works both ways. But I'd be lying if I said it didn't hurt sometimes.
Yeah. But it's okay for that.
Yeah.
Again, like, I love that you gave me permission just now. I don't know if you felt that way, but to say, hey, you're always going to have... my ex-girlfriend, my last relationship was fucking painful, man. It was like, it's one that I think will always kind of sting a little bit. And that's okay. I mean, I think it's actually kind of valuable. Like, it's a helpful reminder. I learned so much from it. It's going to make the rest of my life better. But yeah, I think it's okay to like accept that, hey, there's always going to be a little bit of pain when that name's brought up, when those memories come up, when the freaking Facebook reminders show up. I'm like, fuck, dude, really?
Yeah, I don't think it ever completely goes away, but I think that's okay.
It diminishes slowly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's not like it's...
Yeah, it's not like it's crippling at all.
No.
But it make me pause and go,
Yeah, but I also feel like, as strange as this is going to sound, but I think that you'll get it, all those losses, the deaths and divorces and whatever, I feel like I've really grown as a person from all that.
Yeah. There's a culture in our country, and I think in the world just generally, where we run from struggling. We run from pain.
It's self-protective.
It's valuable, though. My new relationship, I have a great, I'm very proud. Like, I wish I could just stand on top of mountains. Like, my new relationship's amazing. I love it. But it's a product of my last one. I wouldn't have what I have now without the lessons from the past. I wouldn't have strong opinion in sports. We wouldn't be doing this podcast, honestly, if Zane hadn't died. And that's, I don't feel good saying that. Like, I don't want to say, like, Zane was a good thing dying. But I tried to use it for good. I tried to build off of it and grow from it and learn from it and let it change my life in a positive way. When you run into a struggle, you have a crossroads and a choice. How are you going to deal with it? You going to keel over and die, or are you going to grow from it and learn from it?
Absolutely. And what you're describing is resilience. So I think there is a strong instinct in us to avoid pain. But I think if we're realistic, we know that that's not entirely possible to insulate ourselves from all pain. But maybe a more healthy way to channel that is just like you say, into how can I grow from this? And that's resilience.
You said something I loved. I don't know if you talked about how being around people helped you. And there are lots of moments when you're grieving.
The right people.
yeah, for sure. Absolutely. But how, like, so when you're grieving, there are lots of moments for me where I'm alone. I go for a walk alone. I journal alone. I work out alone. I have moments of, like, the shower, actually, when I'm struggling, is a great moment where I take 30-minute showers. Way too long, but it's my brevity, my moment of silence alone to myself. And you have a lot of moments like that.
Yep.
But it's also valuable to surround yourself with helpful people that help you. A great example, actually, is you. You have played a huge role in my grieving process from my last relationship.
Oh, good.
There are a lot of moments where I've called you, or I've gone over to your house and we've talked about it, or you and my dad have both been really instrumental in my process of helping me get through it, because you were there for me.
Yeah.
And you were just there for me. But I really encourage you, if you're struggling and grieving, seek out people that are there for you. It really helps to not be alone. There are moments where you want to be alone. But in the journey of grieving, it helps to have allies and friends and people supporting you along the way.
Absolutely. And I would encourage people that are trying to support those that are going through loss of some kind, that don't feel like you have to have the perfect words or the solution or any of that. Really, all that person needs is love and time to sort things out on their own.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I think I go back to the very beginning where we started here. Is we talked about like we started with this idea of how do you get revenge against your ex, and the reality is don't.
Yeah.
It's unhealthy. You're just being mean. It's not kind. You're just lashing out.
Well, and you're channeling your pain into kind of a negative way instead of in a more healthy way, which is grieving it and learning what you can.
And revenge is just avoiding. Revenge isn't dealing with your own issues. Revenge isn't moving on. Revenge isn't positive. It's not
healthy.
It might feel good very briefly, but also I'm a person. I've gotten revenge in the past. I did it once. I can't. Yeah. And man, I regret it so much. Like you might feel good for like 5 minutes, and then you're like, oh my god, I'm a terrible person.
If you have any kind of conscience, yes.
Yeah. I mean, you just oh man. So I just encourage you, man. If you are grieving, you've gone through a breakup, and you're fucking pissed, and you're hurting, and you're in a bad place. Deal with your own issues. Do self-reflection. Get a journal. Buy a notebook. Fucking write. Zach Shomler's making me write. I don't know what to write about, but I better start writing. Literally, that's what it takes. That's what it takes. Journal. Grieve. Go get counseling if you need. Get supportive people around you. Get your shit together. Move on. Enjoy your life. Don't get revenge against your ex. The best form of revenge, and the most vindicating, honestly, is success.
Okay, I'm taking issue, though, with you saying it that way, because that implies that revenge is still the objective.
Maybe that's my unhealthiness. I don't know, but I know this, man. When I was in high school, I had a high school football coach who said, "You're too small, you'll never make it." And the way I beat him was I succeeded. I was like, it's...
So you're keeping it kind of competitive, though.
I guess. I mean,
so I would challenge you to look at that a little.
Yeah, no, it's definitely... Because I love that this is why we fucking do a podcast together. It's not sustainable. You're totally right. I got to college because he said you'll never play college, you're too small. So I broke all these records in my new high school after transferring. I did all this stuff. I did great stuff. And at the end of the day, it wasn't enough to motivate me. I had to find a new motivation. And actually what's been interesting is my motivation as a person, you talk about chip on your shoulder a lot. The chip on my shoulder shifted from fuck everybody, prove them wrong, to now my motivation is I want to have the life I imagine. I want to have the life. I want to fight for that life. When I work for Strong Opinion Sports, I'm tired. Like when you leave today, I'm going to go work on Ask Zach, an episode of my podcast for Strong Opinion Sports. And what's going to happen? What's my motivation? Is it fuck all the people that hate me, don't believe in me? No. It's let's battle for the life I want. Vacations, good dates, dinner, having a place to live, like the things I want in life, that's what I work for now rather than the motivation of the past. So you're totally right, actually. Thank you for calling me out. If you're motivated by the past, that's a little bit unhealthy. Be motivated by your desires and what you want for the future.
Well, and I would add on to that, too, that I'm guessing that when you say that you are going after this life that you want, you're not hoping that you get that at the expense of that person in the past that hurt you, right?
No, they're not involved.
It's really nothing about them.
Yeah, it's not about them at all.
Yeah. And then I would say that maybe some more practical tips, too, when you're trying to get over some more helpful behaviors, I think, focusing on what you can do to get revenge would be, stop following them on social media. Stop be caring really what's going on in their life. Don't torture yourself.
Move on.
Move
move on.
Yeah. Don't text or call them or, drive by their house. I mean, those just keep the wounds open. That's not going to be helpful to you to heal.
And be thankful you don't have kids together.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and if you do that, it makes it a little trickier, but not impossible. But still, I think distance, is good in the short term anyway. And then I think a helpful thing to do is when those wounds are fresh, when you've just broken up, write yourself a letter. Remind yourself of how and why things didn't work out so that if you're ever tempted to go back or whatever, look at the past with rosy glasses, maybe.
Make sure you know how you felt.
Maybe that'll be just a little, second guess or whatever.
Yeah. But drop you brought up a huge point. Drop the competition.
Yeah.
Like, don't. Enjoy
You're not
life.
trying to beat them. You're just trying to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be the bigger person. That's really, I love this show because I feel like, I learned something too. I feel like I get it. You're so wise, and I really appreciate that. Sometimes I get to be one of the viewers too, and one of the listeners, where I learn something as well, and it's fun.
Oh, likewise. I think you're very wise too. That's why this works.
I agree. Karyn, do you have anything else to add to this topic?
Nope. I think it was a good one.
I agree. Guys, thank you so very much for listening. My name is Zach Shomler. This has been the Desperately Dating Podcast, episode 13. Thank you so very much for tuning in. I hope you have a great day. That has been my wonderful and wise stepmom, Karyn, over to my right. You can't see her. This is an audio-only podcast. Suck on that. She's wearing a Strong Opinion sports shirt. It's awesome. Have a great day. I love you guys. Ba-dum-bum. Bam. We are done.